Okay, let's dive right into today's explainer. We're going to explore a truly fascinating architectural metaphor that perfectly cracks the code on the complex neuroscience behind our brain's reward system. Seriously, we are looking at exactly how ancient philosophy and modern science intersect to explain our everyday habits of consumption. Because, let's face it, we've all had those frustrating moments where our bodies just seem to work entirely against our own best interests. Whether we're struggling with a diet, trying to break a bad habit, or just sitting there wondering why on earth we crave certain things so intensely.
So I want you to picture this provocative scenario for just a second. Imagine you've got a highly paid, deeply trusted servant. This person is entirely entrusted with guarding the front door of your estate and receiving valuable gifts on your behalf. Now, what would actually happen if that loyal servant started skimming right off the top? What if they started prioritizing the thrill of receiving those gifts over their actual literal job of protecting your house? I know, it sounds a bit like a plot from some historical drama, but an identical dynamic of a corrupt, self-serving employee is actively playing out inside your own body every single day. Have you ever actually noticed it?
Part 1. Anatomy of the Palace. Mapping the Blueprint.
To really wrap our heads around how this internal corruption happens, we turn to a fascinating philosophical text known as the 19th Lemma, specifically the Treatise on Frugality. This text provides a profound visualization of the human body. It basically asks us to see our biology not just as a collection of random organs, but as a flawless, perfectly ordered city. And in this architectural blueprint, your stomach, that is the absolute ruler in charge. It requires sustenance and energy to govern the entire bustling city of your body. Meanwhile, your sense of taste, residing right there on your tongue, is the gatekeeper. Its one crucial job is to carefully inspect all incoming gifts, so the food and drink you consume, before they are ever allowed to reach the ruler. And connecting these two vital figures are your nerves and blood vessels, which act as high-speed telephone lines carrying rapid-fire messages back and forth.
Now, when this system is working the way nature intended, it is literally a marvel of security. Just think about our ancient ancestors foraging out in the wild. If something enters the mouth that offers absolutely no nutritional benefit to the ruler, or worse, if it's actually toxic, this loyal gatekeeper does its job without a second of hesitation. It essentially yells, "Forbidden!" and forces you to spit it right out. It's basically the ultimate biological bouncer, right? A defense mechanism designed entirely to protect the palace and serve the stomach's true needs. It doesn't care at all about being polite. It only cares about keeping the ruler safe.
Which brings us to part 2, spoiling the gatekeeper and the danger of the tip. Okay, so how exactly does this perfectly balanced, highly secure system just break down? Because as we all know from our own modern struggles with junk food and overconsumption, the gatekeeper absolutely doesn't always do its job. Well, it all comes down to compensation. You see, the gatekeeper experiences pleasure through taste. That is its tip for doing a good job inspecting the food. But the treatise establishes a strict mathematical limit for this transaction. If a nutritional gift to the ruler, let's say a healthy apple or a really hearty meal, is worth 100 points in biological value, the gatekeeper's fair share, its tip, should only be about a fifth of that value. So 20%, and absolutely no more. The pleasure of eating should always be proportional to the actual nutritional value it brings to the body.
But then, we consume modern foods. Foods that are chemically engineered to be hyper-palatable. We're talking stuff absolutely packed with artificial flavors, excessive sugar, and heavy fats. When we do that, we are handing a massive, entirely unearned tip to the servant at the door. We bypass the nutritional value completely and just pay off the bouncer. And it sets off this disastrous chain reaction. The gatekeeper becomes incredibly spoiled. It gets obsessed with the high of the tip rather than doing its actual job. It completely forgets its duty to the ruler and begins enthusiastically throwing open the palace gates to the absolute wrong people. It allows empty calories and harmful substances to flood the city, bypassing security entirely, all just so the gatekeeper can get another hit of that massive, pleasurable tip. Moving right along to Part 3, the neuroscience of desire, where science meets metaphor.
Now here is where it gets really wild. What is truly incredible is how beautifully modern science maps directly onto this ancient architectural metaphor. We aren't just talking about a clever or poetic idea here, we are talking about a highly accurate description of human neurobiology. And to prove this, we just have to look at a landmark 1998 neuroscience study published in Brain Research Reviews by researchers Burridge and Robinson. Their groundbreaking work on dopamine and the brain's reward system completely revolutionized how we understand addiction and cravings. And brilliantly, it perfectly captured this exact phenomenon of the spoiled gatekeeper, providing hard, peer-reviewed scientific backing for the treatise on frugality.
These researchers figured out something completely mind-blowing.
There is a critical distinction in the brain between actually wanting something and genuinely liking it. When our reward system is constantly overstimulated by a massive, generous tip, like those hyperpalatable foods we talked about, or even addictive behaviors like mindlessly scrolling on our phones, these distinct feelings become totally tangled together. Think about it. Have you ever been sitting on your couch completely stuffed after dinner, but you find yourself polishing off a bag of chips anyway? Your body doesn't actually like it anymore. Honestly, your stomach might even hurt, but your brain still desperately wants the reward, driven entirely by dopamine. That right there is the exact moment that neurological gatekeeper has confused the body's genuine biological need with a runaway, insatiable desire for pleasure.
When things function as nature intended, pleasure is simply a servant. It exists solely to motivate the gatekeeper to do the job of filtering benefits for the body's health. It's a tool for survival, plain and simple. But when we overtip the system, pleasure becomes the master. Ultimately, instead of serving the ruler, which is the stomach and your body's overall holistic health, the gatekeeper transforms into someone merely chasing the tip itself. It ignores all biological duty, goes completely rogue, and allows the entire palace system to crash right into dysfunction. Part 4. Who serves whom? So as we wrap up this architectural tour of your own biology, it kind of forces us to look in the mirror, doesn't it? We have to examine our own inner cities and see who is actually running the show. I'm going to leave you with one final stark question to consider regarding your own internal hierarchy. Think about this today. In your daily choices, what you eat, what you consume, what you pursue, is your gatekeeper serving the ruler? Or have you let the servant take over the palace, meaning the ruler has ended up serving the gatekeeper? It's a pretty profound question that bridges ancient wisdom right over to modern neuroscience, and honestly, answering it truthfully might just be the absolute key to reclaiming your palace.